then automatically we have a process set up because it's not already provided for in the ordinance, whereby the PC can look at it and say, okay, well, we like this use here, but we don't like it here, depending on the location, what it is, what is surrounding the location they're proposing, and they can say yes or no. They can give conditions, and then they send it on to you all for your final approval. And then it sets up, in addition, if a use is being performed in violation of this ordinance, then the city has the ability to go directly to circuit court and challenge the use as a nuisance per se. And if the city were to prevail, then we can collect our reasonable legal fees. So I don't know if that was English.
That's something John must have drunk.
This. In the future, when it has public hearing, and Mark, do I present this to you? Would you add something that someone from the public might be, if they're interested in, they would understand what it means, specifically referring to a building housing medical marijuana or any other use? A use not specifically in our ordinance was wonderful. That was a great sentence.
So basically it's like a catch-all.
Yes.
Okay.
So, in John's terminology, since he's not here to protect himself,
Oh, no.
I know why now. This is kind of like a super secret little law that we've got that we could actually use for anything.
No.
No.
Well, it's not saying anything what it's
not
used
super
for.
secret because we just talked about it and
Well,
we're on TV. And we can't use it for everything. We can only use it for unanticipated uses that are not already in our ordinance and provided for.
Which makes sense.
Which is
Now,
a secret.
the previous discussion, this would not pertain to that because we have an ordinance that deals with multiple units, correct?
For example. Well, it would be a use. Say, liquor store. Just as an example, somebody wants to use an existing building as a liquor store. We have provisions for that already, so we're going to use those.
Right.
Now, if somebody comes with something that we don't have already, like, say, a check cashing, one of those check cashing, cash in advance places, we don't have anything for that. Then we have a chance to look at it and say, okay, do we want this? Where do we want it in the city? Depending on where it's proposed, and is it in a residential area, for example.
I hope we have something about check cashing place since we have 2 or 3 of them in the city already. I know you just, yeah.
I get it now.
And your explanation is wonderful. What's written for a public hearing, to me, is not really asking for a public hearing because it's a lot of words strung together in a sentence.
But it meets the
So-
requirements for, they have to publish it
Right.
as it's written. I mean, I agree with you, it needs some clarification, but it's got to be
meeting
written.
the requirements as a basic is different than imparting information, and that's what I'd like to do, is impart the information and not
That's why no one's here for
Look
public
at-
hearing on it.
Exactly.
No one knew what it meant.
Okay, so
Madam Mayor, I move the ordinance to amend Chapter 34 Land Development Regulations, Article X10, Zoning Division 1.
Wait a minute. You're too
Public-
fast.
public-
We're on 9, you're on 10.
Oh, man. I knew I didn't like this thing.
I was going to say, there's no motion there.
We don't need a motion for 9. You
Yes.
just have to open and close it.
you
Oh,
did
okay.
not.
That's
Exactly.
public I'm sorry.
So
Hurry up and close it so I can make
we,
my motion.
we were on line item 9 for public hearing,
Yes.
but needed a description of what the public hearing is for, first of all. So we have that description, any use not specifically in our ordinance, and then the process that will happen. And the process is a well-defined process, going to the planning committee, planning committee making their determination, then that recommendation coming to council. Okay? Public hearing is now open.
Don't all come at once.
All right, public hearing is closed. Now we're on to number 10, and again, I'm sorry, number 10 does exactly reference what our public hearing was about. It's the amendment to the ordinance regarding uses not specifically mentioned in our ordinance.
Now, can I make my motion?
Now you can.
I move the ordinance to amend Chapter 34, Land Development Regulations, Article 10, Zoning Division 1, generally repeal and replace Section 34-486, uses not otherwise specified within a use district, excluding uses not mentioned and providing waivers from such exclusion within the City of Clawson, and providing penalties for any violation and setting forth the statement of purpose for such ordinance be entered into first reading.
Support.
Say that again?
No.
Because this is a first reading, means it will come up again at the next council meeting for second reading. So anybody who is interested on speaking to any of those issues would be another time for you to speak to any use not specifically in our ordinance. Any questions?
New zoning district.
Roll call, please.
Tom Palmer?
Yes.
Kathy Phillips?
Yes.
Howie Ayers?
Yes.
Penny Lutz?
Yes.
Samuel Moore?
Yes.
Now we are on to the second reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 34, again the Land Development Regulations, to create a new zoning district called the Business Renewal District, and this is at the south end of Clawson on Main Street.
Your Honor, I move the ordinance to amend Chapter 34 of the Land Development Regulations of the Code of Ordinances to create a new zoning district to be included under Division 26, Business Renewal District 1, be entered into second reading and adopted.
Support.
This is the one Vidya talked to us about at the last meeting, correct?
Right.
Okay. Just want to make sure we were talking the same one.
And this is the area that does encompass Bayless, the forklift, and so to my understanding, we were assured that Bayless would be able to continue their operation even though they're now defined as non-conforming, and in fact, they would be able to expand that operation. Is that right?
That comes up under agenda item number 12.
I know, and in my mind, again, the amendment for that, I want to know the amendment is going to pass, so these items are backwards or out of order in my mind, but we were assured that that would happen. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Kathy Phillips?
Yes.
Howie Ayers?
Yes.
Penny Lutz?
Yes.
Samuel Moore?
Yes.
Tom Palmer?
Yes.
Now on to the amendment to the ordinance we just approved, that non-conforming uses of land that will add new conditions for expansion or alteration of non-conforming uses of land, and to clarify the language, be entered into first reading.
Mayor, I move the ordinance to amend Chapter 34, Land Development Regulations, Article 10, Zoning, Division 3, Nonconformities, Section 34-573, Nonconforming Uses of Land, Subsection 1, to add new conditions for expansion or alteration of nonconforming uses of land, and to clarify the language to be entered into first reading.
Support.
Any other questions?
Yeah. The more we write, the less we clarify.
Exactly. And that was to clarify the language. Let's clarify the language on each and every item.
It's because lawyers wrote it.
I
No
think
offense.
John denied use of writing this last meeting, but hey. All right. Yes.
Madam Mayor, there is there is a problem with this one, and I'm trying